It's hard to believe that something like that could go on and not be noticed. If something was coming there and stealing the water. And it was July 2002, Balcarce, Argentina. Gustavo Dimuro was out on his family farm to get some work done. He had went out to tour the field around his property and distribute rolls of hay for the cattle to eat. Whilst doing this, he observed nothing out of the ordinary. The next day, Monday, July 22nd, because no rain fell overnight, he went out to repeat the process. This time he was joined by George Latour, a family friend. That is when the pair made a grim discovery in the field, a deceased bovine. Gustavo and George cautiously approached it and were surprised to find that it wasn't just deceased, but it appeared as though something had surgically removed pieces of its body. Being farmers, the men were aware of stories of strange cattle deaths reported by other ranchers. The detailed cuts reminded them of some of the photos they'd seen in the news. We found that its entire palate bone was skinned, its tongue was missing, and its hindquarters and genitals had been torn off. It was a 3 to 4 year old cow, pregnant and in excellent health, Gustavo told an El Dario news reporter who had come out to the farm to interview him. He added that when he later found the fetus, it was intact. It was clear to Gustavo and George that whatever happened to the cow, it was not normal. Representatives with the INTA, or the National Agricultural Technology Institute of Argentina, came out to the farm after Gustavo notified authorities. They did a thorough investigation. Upon opening the cadaver, they discovered that the flesh was in perfect condition. The INTA analyzed the animal and ascertained that it had passed away sometime between Sunday afternoon and Monday morning. George found it interesting that the place where the animal was found showed no signs of kicking fits before its passing. It's as though someone had placed it there, he told a reporter, adding that the grass in that particular spot was short and the animal did not appear to be scuffed. Aside from the removed parts, the animal appeared, quote, remarkable, completely clean. While Gustavo and his brother, whom he ran the farm with, and George, thought the matter strange, it wasn't until later that they recalled another bizarre thing that happened on the farm just a few days prior to them finding the cow. The 2 large water tanks in their field were somehow completely drained of water, something Gustavo and his brother found to be a little odd. For those not in the know, water tanks are constructed on farms for irrigation and livestock watering needs. They eventually refilled them expecting to find a leak, but nope. When they checked them many hours later, they found the water level had not changed. They noted that both tanks had cement floors. They could find nothing abnormal with the tanks and had no explanation for how they were completely drained of water to the point of being dry. Further, they could find nothing to indicate that any kind of vehicle had been on the property to drain said tanks. None of it made sense. Was this somehow connected to the cow they found a few days later, they wondered. Another strange thing, Gustavo told the reporter, was a seemingly healthy and thriving lemon tree close to the site where the animal was discovered was now suddenly completely stripped of leaves. While Gustavo reasoned that it could have been caused by the wind or a powerful frost, it didn't make sense that it was the only tree that appeared to be affected. The area around the tree, The plants and vegetation seemed fine, yet that tree was bare. He couldn't explain that. He was certain that it happened between Sunday and Monday, around the time the cow met its end. In the days and weeks after, the Dimuro farm observed a number of strange things, including animals seemingly changing pastures on their own and without any explanation. In a single pasture field, I have 200 animals, and I found 3 cows in one pasture and 2 in another, where the heifers are kept. We looked to see if the barbed wire fence had been broken, and we found nothing. We can't explain how this happened, Gustavo told the reporter. There was nothing to indicate that anyone had been on the property, no troublemakers who might have moved the cows. It was as if something had picked up the animals and moved them over. But to what end? I have covered this type of thing in the past where a farmer complained that his cows were being moved from one field to another, couldn't figure out how it was happening. So, it's not the first time I've heard of this, but it's still strange, especially in conjunction with all the other weird stuff that was happening on that farm. The El Dario newspaper curiously reported that another strange cow death was discovered only 20 kilometers from Gustavo's farm. It was found on a street near a wilderness area between the 10th and 105th Streets, missing an eye and an ear and presenting incisions on its body. A reporter with the newspaper was dispatched to the site in fairly short time and was surprised to find that the animal had vanished. Even stranger, many of the locals were unwilling to talk on the matter. The reporter heard a rumor that it was not 1 but 3 heifers that were found throughout the district that week, all in the same state, with parts seemingly removed as if performed by a surgeon. The newspaper could not confirm this, though. The owners of the property where the original cow was found by the road, they refused to speak to the media. The reporter wrote, "During the week, 2 bovine deaths were recorded in the district, presenting similarities between both regarding the amount of damage caused to the body of the animal by its erstwhile attacker. One of these events took place in the property owned by Gustavo Dimuro, located in the area of the Buena Vista pasture field, some 20 kilometers away. Upon finding the animal, the above-named rancher notified the local subsidiary of the Argentine Agrarian Federation, and its director, Roberto Gonzalez, contacted the management of INTA in order to determine the steps to be followed. Members of the Specialized Diagnostic Veterinary Service reported to the site in order to collect the necessary data. The experts who arrived at the location performed various incisions on the animal's body, and in this regard, it was said that the report would only be delivered to the person responsible for the field and the acting veterinarian. An effort was made to secure this information, but at the close of this edition, no report had been delivered. Regarding the Dimuro farm, the strange events in the field remain unexplained, and while logical conclusions are being sought, and even if ETs were involved, something that the men profess not to believe in, the strange events that parallel the death, such as the missing water, the dropping of leaves from a single tree, and the incredible transfer of animals from one pasture field to another, constitute a mystery. It does sound like a fairly large farm. He did have 200 head of cattle, so it's hard to believe that something like that could go on and not be noticed. If something was coming there and stealing the water and doing something terrible to this animal and stripping a lemon tree and moving your cattle around, you'd think that somebody would notice that. And yet, it seems to have gone undetected. Nobody really knows what was going on. I don't know. In this day and age, you'd think that somebody would set up a camera, but I guess not. Well, some skeptics, I'm sure, would say, oh, somebody was pulling a prank on him. I mean, in the case of the water towers and the cattle being moved around and even the lemon tree, I guess you could say it's possibly a prankster. But when you start hurting animals like that, in the way that, this cow was found, I don't know. That seems to go out the window.